plan for this year's journey was to once again take the overnight ferry from Argentia to North Sydney. From there, we would ride across Nova Scotia and into New Brunswick, then down through Maine to our final destination in Old Orchard Beach. We left St. John's on July 29th and made the hour-and-a-half run to Argentia. When travelling anywhere from Newfoundland, the first step is to get off the island, and taking the overnight ferry allows us to sleep while making our way to the mainland. Once we arrived at the ferry terminal, it wasn't too long before we were on board with the bike strapped down and were settled in for the overnight sail to Nova Scotia, which takes about 16 hours. After grabbing a bite to eat, we had a few drinks at the bar before turning in for some rest to ensure we were fresh for the next morning. After a decent sleep, a hot shower and some breakfast, we hit the ground running the next morning, rolling off the ferry into a beautiful day. We travelled across Cape Breton Island and the rest of Nova Scotia before crossing over into New Brunswick. By late afternoon, we had covered about 740 kilometres before stopping in St. Stephen for the night. We checked into the Winsome Inn, a great little motel just minutes from the US border. That evening, we ventured out to a local restaurant and a bar before calling it a night. It had been a great day on the road. After a good night's sleep, we left the motel and headed down Main Street towards the US border. This border crossing in the town of St. Stephen is small and quiet. It took just a few minutes to stop and show our passports before entering Maine. After crossing over into Maine, we took a combination of back roads and interstates, winding our way down the coast towards Old Orchard Beach. We had lucked into a perfect sunny day and the roads were great, making for an awesome ride. We covered just over 400 kilometers and made it to Old Orchard Beach by mid-afternoon. We checked into the Seabreeze Motel. The motel itself is a little dated, to say the least, but the price was right, the weather was hot, and the pool was great. So we took the good with the bad. After a few long days on the road, we spent the next couple of days just exploring Old Orchard Beach, checking out the bars and restaurants on the pier, and spent some time on the decks overlooking the beach listening to live music. Old Orchard Beach is pretty well a ghost town in the winter, but in the summer it's a busy place and it's no problem to find things to do and things to check out. It's an easy place to have fun. By day 6, it was time to start making our way back. The route back would take us to St. John, New Brunswick to catch the Digby Ferry, then around the scenic south shore of Nova Scotia, before heading east towards North Sydney. From North Sydney, we would once again catch the 16-hour overnight ferry back to Newfoundland. We left Old Orchard Beach under sunny blue skies and headed northeast back across Maine towards New Brunswick. We decided to take our time on the way back, taking the scenic routes, and that decision certainly paid off. On Highway 1 we accidentally came across an amazing cable suspension bridge called the Penobscot Narrows Bridge. This bridge spans over 2,100 feet across the Penobscot River and has a 360-degree observatory at the top. If you are ever in this area, make sure you check this one out. It's worth the stop, I promise. We finally made it back to St. John, New Brunswick by about 7 p.m. and spent the night with family. We had a great meal, a couple of bottles of wine, and spent the evening catching up. After a great time with family the night before, we left early the next morning and caught the ferry to Digby, Nova Scotia. The ferry ride to Digby is about 2.5 hours across the Bay of Fundy. The ferry ride put us in a great location to loop around the scenic south shore of Nova Scotia. It was another perfect sunny day, so we took full advantage of the ideal conditions and took our time, making stops in Liverpool, Mahone Bay, and of course a stop in Lunenburg to see the iconic Blue Nose. Scenic routes take longer, but are worth the extra time, especially when the weather cooperates like it did today. It was once again a late evening before we reached Upper Tantallon, where we spent another night with family. We had had some pretty heavy rain and thunderstorms overnight, and it was still raining the next morning. So we waited a couple of hours before heading out, giving some time for the rain to pass off. We hit the road around mid-morning, but once again hit heavy rain on the way to North Sydney. Luckily, by the time we hit Antigonish, the skies cleared again and the sun came out, so I got the cameras rolling again. I kinda wish I had gotten the cameras rolling a bit earlier and captured some of the torrential rain we rode through. It was pretty bad, probably some of the worst rain I've ever ridden in. It was so bad at times, cars were pulling over with their hazard lights on because the windshield wipers just simply couldn't keep up with the downpour. With the sun back out and the roads dry, we had no problem making it back to North Sydney by early evening. We checked into Hotel North and had ourselves a great meal in the restaurant, and we celebrated the end of this year's journey. We were lucky enough to meet a couple who had ridden all the way from Mexico on their BMW GS 1200. The next day was a lazy day. We were just minutes from the ferry, but it wasn't scheduled to leave until 5 p.m. So we took a late checkout and spent the day at the hotel, catching up on some rest, hanging out on the deck, and waiting for our time to head to the terminal. As the day went on, I could see the clouds building, so we headed to the ferry terminal just in the nick of time to park our bikes in the line and run for cover before the skies opened up. By divine intervention, the sun came out again, just in time for us to board the ferry without getting wet. It had been a great trip, with a blend of fast roads, scenic routes and interesting stops. And as we wrapped this one up, I was already looking forward to next year.